Channel here over at SubStars. So Elon Musk is triggering the video game propagandists, and they're starting to get nervous because they're seeing some real consequences develop as people are really getting tired of woke, and there's definitely a vibe shift. So what happened is Elon did a few tweets about woke game journalism, and even if you don't follow the culture war, you just don't think that's a big deal. You think tweets are kind of thrown off the cuff, and they're like pebbles in a pond type of thing with their ripples. This is different. Elon Musk is a huge deal on social media, where he says things and they get reported in the news, where you have probably Piers Morgan loses his mind in a virtue signaling with Rabbi Shmuley over whatever happens. What happens when he tweets stuff is that there's a tremendous amount of focus shifted to a topic. It's kind of similar to when people attack Trump. You realize like you're attacking the person with the greatest name recognition on the planet, I guess. And so what happens is suddenly there's spotlights from around the world focused on you. So if you're gonna call out somebody like this, you better be just squeaky clean. And what happens is most people aren't squeaky clean, so they end up getting their lives destroyed, which is hysterical. So he's a big deal whether you like him or not. What happens is he tweets about this, and there are people in the comments talking about starting a less biased video game websites and probably games themselves, because where Musk is focusing people, there's a good chance that the money is going to follow. Trump and Musk are shaking things up, and definitely a lot of people are not happy about that, to the extent that they formed or there's a big mass exodus to Blue Sky, which is a bizarro left-wing echo chamber. It's another kind of Twitter thing. It's like Tumblr and Twitter before Elon Musk, just peak wokeness. So you got websites like Kotaku and IGN and 100 of these other garbage sites, and they've slowly been shrinking over the years. Kotaku just recently fired a bunch of people, including allegedly Alyssa Mercante, the sex worker who's suing people for calling her a sex worker when she repeatedly admitted it, that's what she was doing. I think she's actually mentally ill. So she was fighting with people online, and it was taking all the attention away from Kotaku and people going there to read about games, and it was reflecting badly on the company because she looked like a lunatic, which she is, but it also shows how far biased Kotaku is that they kept her on there. So to their credit, they did get rid of her eventually, and they did that with Taylor Lorenz at Washington Post, who is probably making more money on Substack anyway, because she has a pretty big social media following, which, that can work to your advantage. But I'm thinking, like, she was probably at Washington Post for so long, she must have had a relationship with somebody powerful there, because otherwise you would have cut her loose earlier. She was such a weirdo. Anyway, so now she's Alyssa Mercante is a Twitch streamer, gamer, whatever, play video games. And if you're going to make that work, you're going to need to focus on low-cut shirts, because that's really popular over at Twitch. And she definitely could if that's the direction she wanted to go. And there's probably more money at Twitch as well. So these websites, these Kotaku types and IGN, are shrinking in importance. And more importantly to them, ad revenue is drying up. And that's what pays their bills, which... because their writers are far-left propagandists, and that's not useful to the readers. People want unbiased reports, and the games are expensive. People just want a fair take, a description of the game from as impartial a foundation as possible. A game shouldn't get extra points because it's diversity and representation and sodomy. Yeah, that's a problem because the gamers don't care, or those are negatives to the gamers. And video games are an important tool of propaganda by the system that surrounds them, the everything that's built up around games. Because the left wing has seen how useful these are in carrying a narrative. Anything, the media, mainstream media, and video games over the past 30 years, but really kind of 20 years, have become tremendously important, and they're kind of on the level of movies, so it gives you the opportunity to carry a narrative, which means your worldview, and that's going to mean, diverse, gay, space, communism type of stuff. So the left wing has jumped on bored with games and stuff around games. I mean, they try to make games directly, but it's, Dustborn and Concord type of stuff or other Depression Quest type of things. So Gamergate 1.1 was in 2013 when Zoe Quinn's Depression Quest came out. And she, I'll say, traded favors, in case of young ears, for good reviews with like 5 media guys. And Anita Sarkeesian was grifting corporate money by making, I need $50,000 for Discord or something bizarre like that. She had a feminist frequency, and she was making videos about TNA in games. And, most people would look at that and go, oh, you should just not play those games that you don't want to play instead of ruining it for everyone. And she, she can't make money if she has to, the Gamergate, the feminism response to Gamergate is fascinating because it's a situation where they made money out of nothing by jumping on the wave of feminism that was popular back then, and it was. And 10 years later, like those chicks, I wonder what they're in the girls who were like the audience for that are, if they were in their teens then, they're in their late 20s, 30s now. Kind of interesting to see how they look back on that and if they're happy with the direction it went in. So the culture war wasn't exactly peak back then, but video games are one aspect of the culture war, and I think they were at peak woke. And people saw how insanely biased the media was in their coverage, where they're just openly one-sided. They didn't even attempt to be fair. It was just a bunch of literal Nazis are attacking these video game people. It's like, that sounds absurd. And the thing is, as it turns out, like with Politico, they were probably getting paid by your tax dollars under U.S. aid. From 2013 to 16 was kind of the peak of the cringy blue-haired feminism slut walk, the SJW thing. And then on YouTube, there was the anti-SJW channels, which were sweet. And of course, because that affected the narrative, Google had to get rid of them. But then at the same time, the trans thing was gathering steam. It would be interesting if somebody did like a recent history book, but from a right-of-center perspective, where you could just be honest about, the globalist string pullers behind the scene. The trans thing was gathering steam, which, it's like psyop on top of psyop, right? And that started to take the energy out of feminism, which was, that was also kind of fun to watch, because the focus shifted away from, actual women whining about feminism. I don't even know what they're whining about. You got equal rights, and now you have to work instead of like staying home and raising kids. Are you winning, feminists? And they hit 30, and frankly, a lot of them are going like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, women need to stay home and raise kids. Like, we should restructure the economy so you don't have to pay someone to raise your kids. You're paying so much of your salary. It's just absolutely absurd that people, like, nobody says, wait a minute, we got screwed along the way, didn't we? Maybe we should fix this and like make the nation go to like a one person household is supporting the wife, and the wife takes care of the kids. I mean, what a shocking concept, right? And to be fair, like I said, there are some women who have kind of awakened to that. Like, this is bizarre to have to go to work when, in the 50s you didn't. Women stayed home to raise the kids, which is it's a job in and of itself. Having a household, raising 4 kids is the job. I don't think there's anything more important. Anyway, the 2016, the Orange Hitler, as they viewed him, got elected, and feminism lost all of its momentum, and they focused on Trump for the next 8 years, even when he was out of office. And then people got tired of Anita, Zoe Quinn, and Brianna Wu. I'm not really sure what Wu was doing. Anyway, so game companies shifted to a younger crowd, and Sweet Baby and Black Girl Gamers started consulting on making games gay, black, fat, and ugly. And the games didn't sell, which was a problem to the companies, but Sweet Baby detected started pointing out, oh, hey, these are the games that these people are working on. And that was kind of the second phase of Gamergate, which, seems like much ado about nothing. Yeah, as it turns out, because Politico and which was writing articles on Gamergate was being funded by U.S. aid. And how many other things were being funded by this kind of hidden money? We're probably never going to know the whole truth. So the argument is it's just games, it doesn't matter. Then, well, if that was true, why would you hire these Frankfurt School political commissars as consultants in the first place? There's a video on Black Girl Gamers, and they're doing some interview, and you should go back and watch it and see how many times they say these buzzwords. I think she says marginalized like 30 times in a 40-minute interview. The thing is, race and sex matter to them. Well, if it matters to them, obviously it also matters to us for verisimilitude. Like I said with the Batgirl, somebody was on Twitter was talking about like what things do you want to see in movies that have to change, and one of the top comments was the 100-pound woman throwing people around. They did it with Batgirl and they did it with Black Widow and any female character. It's 120-pound, 5'6" woman who's just laying people out. It's like that's that in the future you're going to look back on that as cringy as we look back on movie fight scenes from the 90s. Anyway, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't change it, and that's the reality. And this whole time, the game's journalists are giving higher scores to woke. Yeah, this guy is getting sued by Alyssa Mercante for, I think, calling her a filthy whore, but I think she admitted she's a filthy whore. Don't sue me, bro. The games journalists are giving higher scores to woker games, and they're slowly losing their audience. Then the Orange Cheeto 2.0 gets elected, and he's teamed up with Musk. And this is after the Soros-fueled black riots. That was, like 4 years of this. And this is very much a different Trump, and people are different as well. There's a vibe shift, and it feels like Hollywood is behind they're a little bit behind the wave on the vibe shift, which means until they catch up to it, they're going to continue to lose billions of dollars. And the woker video games are failing more, and suddenly the action-adventure film genre, which I used to enjoy. I know it's slop, but it was fun stuff. The superhero movies, those are falling apart, and both Marvel and DC are having flat-out bombing movies, and a bunch of underperformers as well, including on movies that were kind of okay, like the Marvels, or which did have a lot of charm. And Brie Larson, the thing is, she's just such a cunty McCunt face. And people are tired of girl power and diversity in general. But, like, it wasn't a horrible movie. Or Solo from Star Wars is a good example. It's like that's a movie that was coherent. It stuck together. It did what it was supposed to do. It wasn't shockingly bad or anything. And yet it was the first Star Wars movie to lose money, not because it was bad, but because people were trying to send a message to Disney Star Wars that their big trilogy was an abomination, which it was. And then you had Wonder Woman 84, Suicide Squad Part 2, Birds of Prey, Flash, the Eternals is Marvel, Black Adams, Black Widow, no, that's Marvel too. But I guess a combination of all these kind of things. Shazam 2, Ant-Man 3, Indiana Jones 5, and then I think The Rock. Seems like every Rock movie is just it's bizarre that he keeps getting roles. He did some kind of River Adventure, which was a Disney movie. I guess they have a ride based on it, which was a bomb. And then they had some animated movies, which were losing money hand over fist. What was that one that was set in Canada in 2006? It's about this group of girls and sexuality, or these like metaphors for sexuality. It was kind of creepy. Anyway, so probably others are feeling it as well. They had a few big hits, but more bombs than wins. And this kind of the same story for Disney Plus, which is their streaming platform, where they just recently raised prices and lost 700,000 subs. And their Star Wars shows have been an absolute disaster, which is going to hurt the Disney Star Wars big screen releases, because the point of the streaming shows is to try to prime the pump for this, and it doesn't seem like it's working. Anyway, so games and movies are going to have to change gears, or they're going to go out of business. And I don't know if gamers are exactly right of center, but what it is they're just not into gay diversity or feminism at all. Like the girl power is just not a big seller to them. There's a branch of the left wing, probably a younger left wing, that's not politically correct. And some of them fit into that. And the other left wing people don't really know how to deal with the left wing that's also, in their words, sexist, racist, Islamophobic, and all this kind of stupid things. Like, those words aren't real. They don't really exist. They're just tools to manipulate you. And if Musk talks about how bad the game media is, what he's doing is creating a vacuum for alternative media to get started. And there's a few sites now, the Park Place, Bleeding Fool, JT's thing, but those are micro budget sites with a handful of people writing articles for them. They have no access to anything, and they're good just because they're not this toxic far left wing, but they don't. You're talking about like shoestring budget sites. So the woke games editors and writers are on Twitter right now, and they're trying to defend these sites, but it's falling flat because they keep trying to say like, well, it doesn't matter. Why is everyone getting so worked up about games? And somebody showed a flow chart from like Zoe Quinn blowing some dudes in 2013 for good reviews to toppling this globalist empire, which we're not there yet, but and I don't know if we're ever going to get there. It's more a question of we're headed in a different direction now where things are potentially on the horizon that just weren't possible a few years ago. I don't know if people will step on the gas and have the guts to go all the way and fix things. But it is a different direction. It's interesting to watch. I mean, it's like if there was a time for an alternative Hollywood, alternative video games and video game journalism, it's like you need some right-wing capital, some venture capitalists to have a couple $100 million or more and go, oh, there's a market out there if we just don't make movies and games full of mixed race, globalist, gay, space communism type of stuff. What was that movie? It was a Disney animation where they're in space and there's like a mixed race couple in space. I mean, it's just like you're going to look at this stuff in 20 years and go, so why did Disney go bankrupt? And then you show, space communism, and it's like, well, this is why they went bankrupt. Anyway, but oddly enough, that money just doesn't materialize because so much of the financial network is tied into far left wing people who, for the left, it's a religion for them. They're just not gonna put money into this, even if it's almost guaranteed to make money, which it is, because like they're not in this for money. This is the Jim Jones. I just saw a movie on Jim Jones last night. The thing is, people don't want to be lectured to in games. They just want a little escapism, and now it's just such a knee-jerk stimulus response. Where if you see, if you see obesity at all, if you see female and she's not like a total Lara Croft type of TNA character, or if you see a POC, it's like the game's going to be woke pronoun lectures, and you think I'm being hyperbolic. Games literally have, was it Concord or Dustborn? They literally have woke pronoun lectures, like a 5-minute scene in a video game about effing pronouns. Absolutely bizarre. And what's even worse is that made that past editors. I mean, there's so much of this stuff. I would love to be a fly on the wall in these rooms going like, is it crack you're smoking that you think it's just the mountains of cocaine that you're going through that you think this is a good idea? People are really not into gay, diverse, vagina-powered games. And like with everything, the buyer has the power to simply not buy the games or movies. I'm not saying go sail the high seas. I mean, but you can. I mean, you can like, you think even games can like download the games and make image files or something. I don't know how that works. If they crack the code, or the thing is, you just have to stop. It's like games are like 100 gigabytes. That's a lot of hard drive space for games. I'll stick to cell phone games. If you stop paying for all these games and movies, they'll change. They have to. The money doesn't last forever. And the thing to do is you just wait for reviews, and if it's got some gay stuff in it or space communism, you just don't have to support those games. Hollywood is learning this lesson, but it's time to teach the game companies the same thing. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.